Personal opinions. What other people think of me is none of my business. Do not let people's opinion of you determine your direction. The answer to your success is purely between you and your relationship with God. Now, that was by Steve Harvey. Why is it that we love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own? You know, people have these preconceived notions about you. They have an opinion about you without ever meeting you. You're a bishop's wife, a general board member's wife. Well, you're a little stuck up and definitely not very approachable. You just dress up and wear hats. Now, that's my opinion of you, their definition of you. When we feel that we only fit into one definition, when we believe how others define us, or when we define ourselves narrowly, we lose parts of ourselves or feel that we can't give voice to parts that don't fit with that definition. I heard someone say, "Why did you write that book? That takes a lot of creativity." Now, you know, everybody wants to write a book, and few ever finish them. You should do what you are good at instead of branching out into the unknown. Now, that's just my opinion. But if we define ourselves or let others define us as someone isn't creative, we'll live our whole lives believing that we are devoid of creativity, rather than taking advantage of opportunities to be creative and perhaps discovering a new talent or hobby, or even having a good time learning something new. We limit ourselves when we believe we're only as complex as one definition. What do these three people have in common? Bishop Charles E. Blake, Bishop P.A. Brooks, and Supervisor Vanessa Gatlin. They all were great organists, great musicians. There were those whose opinions defined all three of these as just great organists and only saw the musical talent, and that's how they were defined. Bishop Blake later became the presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ. Bishop Brooks was the organist for his jurisdiction for many years, but later became the first assistant presiding bishop. And Supervisor Gatlin was a phenomenal organist, but later became a renowned evangelist who has traveled this country preaching the gospel. These three were defined as musicians, and there was a time when people only saw them as musicians. Now, that's not a negative opinion, but it was limited. These three became national leaders in the Church of God in Christ. Well, one reason why other people's opinions don't matter: they don't know your journey. They don't know where you've been, and they don't know where you're headed. I recall a powerful story that I once heard about a man who was on a subway. He sat on that subway watching as a father was completely neglecting his three children. He had two small boys and a little girl, and they were simply out of control. And he was oblivious to that fact. He looked out at the man with disdain. How could you ignore these children? How could you allow them to disrupt this subway ride for all the passengers? And some passengers were too nice or too ambivalent to say anything, just didn't say anything. But I had to say something. So I walked up to him. I said, "Do you see your three children jumping on the subway and all of the chairs? I mean, they're just tearing up things." And this man, he looked at him and he said, "Yeah, that's my kids. We just left the hospital and their mother just died. And I'm trying to figure out, how will I tell them they will never see their mother again?" And they looked at him, but that was their opinion. That was their opinion. They don't know your journey. They don't know where you've been, and they don't know where you're going. I'm getting out of this box.